inviting me, Boss Crane. My name is Steve Stalick. I'm with Stalick Sales, representing Faltec Fall Protection. And we have here our demo truck, demo trailer. What I normally do is about a 60-minute presentation on the ABCs of fall protection. What I'm going to cover in the next 25 or 30 minutes with y'all is how to inspect the harness, how to wear the harness properly, and also trauma relief. And we'll have a volunteer here in a little bit to do some lifting. And if we have time, I can actually show a drop too if you want. So we can kind of put that in towards the end. So anyways, as far as the ABCs and Ds of fall protection are concerned, A is your anchor points, B is the body harnesses, C is the connecting means, and then Ds are the devices. That's your yo-yos like this right here. And we have those in all the different sizes, 6 foot all the way on up to 50 and 100 foot yo-yos. So Faltec is a US made manufacturer out of Compton, California. We are an ISO 9001 lab. We are a 17025 testing facility. So we are one of only 3 fall protection manufacturers that test their own equipment. And with that being said, it's very important because that testing data is in-house. If you need a declaration of conformity, we have an independent tester that comes in and tests it for us. So he's not actually an employee of Faltec, passing things along. Without that, the Faltec's a great company. Again, like I said, U.S. made, and we can typically do anything you need, and different configurations of harnesses. So I'll get into the inspection of your harnesses and your lanyards and or your SRDs. I'll get into that inspection here. So when would you inspect your product? So some folks say once a week, some folks say every day, some folks say twice a week. The answer is every single time that you wear it, that you put it on, that you connect to something, that item should be inspected. If it's any type of webbing, polyester webbing like this here that's on a harness, you certainly want to do that with gloves off. So you don't want to have gloves on. You might be able to see something, or you might not be able to see something. You may be able to feel a burn or a cut or a tear or something like that. It's also noted that in, I think Boss falls under OSHA 1926, which is construction. So it has to be, the fall protection has to be inspected by a competent person, minimum twice a year. So unless Boss has a different policy where it has to be inspected by a competent person once a month or every quarter, that would supersede that OSHA ruling. So if it's inspected more, that's great. But according to OSHA 1926, it has to be inspected at minimum twice a year. So with that being said, let's get into the harnesses and inspection of the harnesses. So again, first thing before you put it on, and we have these all in different kinds of configurations as well. We have them in single D-ring, we have them in 3D rings with belts, with no belts. We have them in 4D rings with belts and no belts, depending upon what you want, and if you're climbing or anything like that, you may want to have a sternal D-ring right here. So this is our minimum. This is our FT iron harness. We just launched just a few months ago. So again, you want to take off those gloves and start at the top. And you have your D-ring. Make sure that it's not rusted, corroded, pitted, any bends in it, any cracks, anything like that. Anything that looks unnatural, get your hands on it. Make sure there's no cuts that you might not be able to see with the naked eye. And then if everything checks out there, you can certainly work your way down. On the back of all harnesses now, you have to have a impact indicator on the back of the harness. That's any brand, any manufacturer that should be on there. These indicators indicate that if, I know you all probably don't share harnesses, but some companies that they share harnesses, that's a good indicator that the person that used it prior to you might have suffered a fall or a little jolt that tore this away. And it's only about 300-400 pounds of force that can pull that off. So make sure that those are intact and together. Work your fingers, work your hands on the webbing. If you're around welders, there's going to be spatter that can make this fabric burn, obviously. Painters, paint is bad for this. And then what we're in right now, we've got a beautiful East Texas day, and compared to what the weather was a couple weeks ago. And UV is going to affect this material as well. So if it's out in the sun quite a bit, kind of like that pass-through up there, if that's on a particular particular crane or a job and it's been sitting out in the sun just getting baked and baked and baked, you need to inspect it. So you need to make sure that it's okay. And if it's an older harness, you might want to just give it a little wrap just to make sure there's not a lot of dust. And it could be dirt, or it could be the fibers coming out of the fabric. So make sure that's on there as well. And you can start, if you'd like, that when you inspect it, you can start from here. And this is the name tag right here. So this has all the identifying marks, the Z359 code, the ANSI and OSHA. All these harnesses are rated for 425 pounds. That's the OSHA recommendation. The ANSI is 310, and that includes all the tools on your person, your belt, anything like that. It all has to, according to ANSI, has to be under 310 pounds. If it's over that, the harness is just fine, but what you're tethered to or what you're connected to certainly makes up for it. So what you're going to have here is a manufacturer date and a serial number, and the manufacturer date of this was September of 2020. Now a lot of folks ask me, does fall protection have an expiration date? And with Faltech, it does not. There was a company out there several years ago that had an expiration of 5 years. That was the ANSI recommendation. But Faltech, it inspects out as long as you, the individual wearing it, and the competent person passes that each 2 times a year, or it passes your inspection every single time you wear it. So again, and if this particular tag is not on here, if it was cut off, it was tore off, it was just rubbed out where you can't read it anymore, take it out of service. You can start with this right here and make sure that inspection tag is on there. If it's not on there, you can stop the inspection right then and there and get a new piece of equipment. So I also have a couple little grids right here where you can mark. That's typically for yourself and or the competent person that's doing it. Most larger companies like y'all will probably have safety person keep those records of the harness and the serial number of that on an Excel spreadsheet. So again, if this isn't on here or not legible, then take it out of service immediately. Okay. And if you want to mark on the harness, most of our harness these days now have this little tag right here, so you can mark your name or employee number, whatever, on that particular piece of cloth right there. You want to try to stay away from paint pens, whether they're water or oil based. You want to stay away from those, from marking on that particular webbing. That'll deteriorate that nylon and polyester over time. So make sure on your front chest connector right here, make sure if that's a quick connect, make sure that doesn't come, if you see red on there or you see green on there, if you don't see the green, it's not connected. I usually, to try to test it, I pull one back, make sure it does not connect. Should be a 2-fingered operation where it pushes and pulls. So just like that. Get on down to the rest of the webbing here again with your hands, your fingers on it. Make sure there's no holes, no cuts, no tears, no rips, anything like that. Work down to the legs, and most guys, some guys like these, some guys don't. A lot of guys like the quick connect chest or quick connect chest and quick connect buckles. That's certainly a personal preference. I prefer these myself. It's just easier to get on and off. And if it's for yourself, those are just fine. If you're switching harnesses and wearing bulky clothing or anything like that, you may want to rethink and do something like this here. So when you inspect this material right here, these are just brass grommets, and if any of those grommets are oblong, out of round, doesn't matter if this one is, and you go on a diet, you all of a sudden you're on this one right here, and you moved up a couple notches to tighten it up. It doesn't matter if there's one out of round, they're all out of round. Also, what you're looking for is to make sure that they're not coming away from the webbing. Make sure that they're not twisting and spinning inside that. If also, and I've seen this before on job sites, but if the harness does not fit, please don't drill a hole in that particular webbing. That takes everything and nulls and voids. You're altering that harness, and if there were a fall, it's not gonna end well. So make sure that that strap is all good. Also, the buckle that it goes through. This buckle right here is very important as well. The tab itself should just move back and forth freely. It shouldn't be moving side to side or anything like that. It should make contact with that piece right here. And on this piece, we leave this loose for a reason. So that's an indicator that if there was any fall on that particular harness. If it's compressed on the buckle itself, that means it's been in some type of incident. So you should take that out of service immediately. So make sure that rolls properly. If it doesn't roll, take it out. You can stop the inspection. Okay. So again, get your hands on it, get your fingers on it. Make sure there's no cuts and tears, like I said before. Any of the other hardware, if you have 3D rings or 4D rings, you do the same thing with that. Just make sure there's no bends, breaks, cuts, rust, pitting on metal hardware or anything like that. Take it out of service. It's certainly a couple $100 harness is certainly not worth an accident or an injury. It's reported that I think 2019 there was in the U.S. there was about 880 deaths in construction and slips, trips, and falls, whether it's from heights or slipping on a surface. But about 880 deaths. That's certainly 880 too many. So, but just make sure that, and if you see something that maybe your coworker is not doing or not practicing properly, go ahead and get him to just stop and say, hey, yeah, I think you should be doing this. So, okay. So you've inspected the harness. Now you want to go ahead and put the harness on, and there are a couple types of harnesses. There's what's called a 3-point, and there's a 5-point. And the 3-point is just the leg closures and the chest closure, and that's it. There's no adjustments up and down. This one right here is what's called a 5-point, and you can see these coming down right here, and these are torso adjustments. So that makes the harness everybody's different shapes and sizes. This one happens to be a small medium. So what it does is it compresses that harness, or it can make it a little bit taller. So that's all that's doing. You want to make sure that those aren't rusted out or anything like that, and they're working properly as well. So secondly, usually everybody's got keys or money in their wallet or clips or anything like that. Mostly keys, like this right here. So if that's in your pocket and you go ahead and tie off with that harness and straighten that out, you fall, the harness is going up, you're going down, so that means that's pulling everything up like this. If those keys were in your pocket, what can happen with that is a key like this, or your auto key, whatever you're driving, could puncture your femoral artery, and you may survive the fall, but you could end up bleeding to death. So make sure you're aware of what's in your pocket. Usually if you need your keys on, I would keep them on a little lanyard or something like that, or near your truck. So also anything that you're wearing on your under your neck, glasses, pens and pencils, lanyards, anything like that. And we'll show, when we have our volunteer, we'll show a lot of that what's called D-ring stretch. The D-ring stretch is quite eye-opening when you see that and you see where the chest strap is. So wearing the harness is certainly a good thing to know. So when I first get a harness, the first time I get a harness, I like to open it up completely all the way like this right here. That accomplishes two things. Number one, it gets the subpelvic strap underneath the buttocks, so to give you a little support if you do fall. And number two, it gets the D-ring they used to say keep it in between in your shoulder blades, but now it's more from the base of the neck to the shoulder blades, somewhere in between there. It's just a little bit easier to get to, and B, you're not going to be flying around if you have it on. You're not going to come out of the harness, or you're not going to fall back or hang back. So the first thing, usually how I work a harness is, and when putting it on, is from the bottom up. And when you do this, like I said, you only have to do it the first time when you get the harness. Then after that, but anytime putting it on, I like to go bottom up. So get the legs on first. So just strap them like that, just snug them up. And same thing with this one right here, and just like that. So what you can do with this is obviously pretty loose, and you wouldn't want to go to work like this right here. You want it to be snug, you want it to fit, but you can adjust with these right here, and you can see the leg getting tighter. Same thing with this side right here. And so what this is doing right here, it's compressing that harness to more of your configuration. Okay, so you can lift these up like that, and then if it feels good, you can get it another pull. If you'd like, you can loosen it up a little bit like that. Makes it feel a little better. And same thing with this side here. This is our like I said, this is our new FT iron harness. What it has is these new style legs where they're actually perpendicular to the ground. Most of the other harnesses that we still manufacture these. There are medium grade harness, if you would, good, better, best. This I would consider the best, but that's more geared towards the perpendicular to the ground, to the floor. The other ones are more up like this into the groin area. So you have to make sure that these legs are put on snug enough. So if you need to tighten that up with a little micro adjustment, you can do that. Same thing with this side over here, and you can do that as well. The rule of thumb for how these should fit are 2 fingers, and put 2 fingers in there and turn. And if you can get a whole fist in there, I promise you will have a bad day if you do fall. So if it's too loose, it will not end well. So the same thing with this side, 2 fingers and turn. Okay, so once your legs are snug, you feel okay right there, and you can adjust that as you move up and down. Next is the chest, and the chest, a lot of times I see at job sites, a lot of guys will have the chest like either way down here. So what can happen if you have a face forward fall, if you fall out of a basket or anything like that, you could actually potentially, if it's not snug enough, you could fall out of the harness. That's one bad thing. And then the second one is a lot of guys I see that this chest strap is a little too high. Okay, it's number one, this is, again, you're going down, the harness is coming up. So what could happen with this could potentially choke you out, which wouldn't be good, or just knock you out completely. So you won't have any time to either self-rescue or eliminate the hazard by using your trauma relief steps. Okay, So where you want the chest is right here across the breastplate, okay? Just right here, no further down, no further up, all right? And you can take this stuff here, the little bit of extra padding that you have, and you can kind of, you don't want to get that caught in any type of machinery or anything like that. Anything like this here, these torso adjusters, go ahead and put on the side as well. And we've got some tie backs for those. Same thing with this one. I can move this one up a little bit. There we go. Okay, and tie this back right here. And same with this one. Okay. So you're all set. You've worn your harness. I know you guys will have 3D rings or 4D rings, whichever. That D ring, that sternal D ring, will be right here. So, and some are belted, some are non-belted. But the more equipment you have, the more you more have to inspect. So make sure you inspect that. Now, if it's a belt and you've got some burn holes on it or something like that, that's not, as long as it's not on the webbing itself that's actually holding you up, you're completely fine. So, and at this time you can ask for usually questions. Okay, so you've worn the harness, you put it on. The next thing is inspection. I can go over really quickly on an inspection of any of the anchor points, and then the SRDs. If you want to do that too, we can do that. So now I'll go over inspections of the leather components besides the harness. I'll go over the anchor points, the connecting means, and the devices relatively quickly here. So this is one of our most popular anchor points. It's a pass-through. It's used as a pass-through, kind of like that up there you saw before, but it actually has one smaller ring than the other, and it should be meant to be used that way, I should say. And you can wrap it around a couple times to do that. Also, these also have inspection tags on it, and basically born-on dates on them as well. There's your inspection tag. Again, if that's not on there, you might as well take it out of service, so you can stop the inspection right then and there. When I was talking earlier about, just a second ago, about this right here, a lot of guys will say, well, why can't I use it like this here? Well, number one, if a hook gets in there like a big rebar hook and it attaches like that and you fall, one of these D-rings right here, these connectors, can actually blow that gate out. So that would not be good. And then we test it this way as well. We don't test it this way, we test it this way here. So again, upon inspection, if that's not on there, take it out of service. With the D-rings and any of the metal, you want to go ahead and make sure that there's no rust, pitting, bends, breaks, anything like that. Get your fingers, get your hands on the webbing. Make sure that webbing feels good. There's no holes, there's no cuts, no abrasions, no tears. Any type of stitching that's coming loose, make sure you take that out as well. Okay. Here's another quick example, a beam clamp. Any of these beam clamps that are used, you can adjust these to whatever beam size you need, and they're all metal. Rust, pitting, bends, breaks are gonna show up on something like this. There's a tag on here for that as well, to make sure that's on there. If that's cut off, take it out of service. This one here is actually for pipe. I don't know if you guys would use something like this, but this is kind of a neat anchor point. Pop like this here, and you attach to that. There's your anchor point. All these anchor points are rated for 5,000 pounds. So this one right here is that version's older brother, I guess, if you will, but it's a cable, and it's a coated cable, so it's going to withstand a little bit more than that nylon. It's not going to fray, although the cable can fray. It's not going to get deteriorated by the UV either. So, and these here, when you use these, again, they're passed through as well. So you're looking, again, the rust, the pitting, the corrosion, the bends, the breaks, anything like that on a cable pass through. We move on to some of the connecting means, and again, we're back where we did with the harnesses. You want to do that without gloves. All of this pretty much without gloves. Make sure that there's no cuts, tears, weld spatter, paint, anything like that. On your snap hooks, make sure that that snap hook, that gate does not engage until you push this piece in and that in. Two-fingered operation, that should not engage without that. Again, rust pitting, corrosion, kind of go over the same thing. Here's your name tag on it. Make sure that that's all good and it's legible. Okay. Same thing with the other side. Again, get your fingers on it. Tears. This happens to be a restraint lanyard. Restraint is just what's called basically a dog on a leash. So if you're tied off here and you don't want to get to that particular line over there, you use a lanyard that's the length that you need, and you can get to that point where you can't go over the edge. Then you're talking, if you can't do that, you're talking fall arrest. And on the fall arrest here is a shock pack. This is a standard 6-foot lanyard. And on that 6-foot lanyard, on this particular shock pack, there's 4 feet of extra webbing that's inside of here. So if you were to fall and you generate enough forces, you could fall 6 plus the 4 is 10 feet. So it could possibly pay out that much. So again, the snap hooks, you look at those, the rust again, the webbing, make sure there's no cuts, tears, burns, nicks, anything like that. And then you get to the D's, is the SRDs. A lot of folks call them self-retracting devices, or SRL, self-retracting lifelines. A lot of the construction industry uses it as a yo-yo. So it's just in and out. This one actually happened to be used. I dropped this one before. But if you see this right here on any of the SRDs, mini SRDs that you use, where the shock pack is coming out of it, take it out of service. Okay. Same thing with the snap hooks. Make sure that those are okay. On any of these, you want to make sure, and if on this is Dyneema webbing, you want to take all of the webbing out. Get both hands on it. You can use a partner with it if you want. They can hold one end. Make sure that you get your fingers on it. No cuts or tears, holes, spatter, anything like that. And as it goes back in, give it a little wrap. Make sure that those locking pawls are locking up properly. Okay. And then on a larger SRD, this is our leading edge version. This happens to only be a 15-footer, but we've got up to 50 feet. So this is cable right here. So with a cable, you want to go ahead and inspect that with gloves on. And what you're looking for on this cable is, when you pull that out, you're looking for any fraying of the cable, any bird nesting, any caging, anything like that, any kinks, any bends. If you're around welders again, and that's on a piece of plate, it could arc, it could burn that cable. So you're looking for that, but again, with that, you want to do with gloves on so you don't poke yourself. And then again, just as you pull it all the way out, pull all 15 feet out. I don't care if it's 20 foot, 30 foot, or 50 foot. Pull all of it out, all the way to the end, right? Just inspect the cable, get your fingers on it, and as you slowly pull it back in, give it a pull, and make sure that those locking pawls are engaging on there. So, and that certainly you'd want to do with another partner, another team member. Okay. So, any questions on that? Feel free, and we can probably get to the trauma and/or the drop. Okay, I'll start talking about the trauma relief.
Okay.
So, have you ever used one of these before?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. The trauma relief, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right.
It's been a while, but
It's been a while?
yeah.
Well, we'll get a little bit of a refresher course. Then your name was Brian?
Seth.
Seth, okay. I heard Brian before, sorry. One thing Seth didn't do was inspect the harness before you put it on. But
I did while you were holding it.
oh, okay. you were already eyeballing it, huh?
I had my good eye on it.
You had your good eye?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good to go.
You only got one, right?
They call me Uno.
Blind in one eye, can't see out of the other.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, make sure those things are snug. Are you gonna have? You plan on having children?
Huh?
You have plan on having children?
I've already done that.
You already done that?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay. All right. Well then, it won't matter then.
Yeah. What are we going to do next?
You ready? You're ready. You got it on. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is Seth here was okay. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I got to start up the generator.
They said you were going to give me one of these for doing this.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just kidding.
No. We're all about freebies.
No, I ain't about that.
I'll get you a cheap hat.
I'll take it.
Okay, so Seth has been so gracious to be our voluntold, if you will. And what we're going to do is we're going to show, Seth already put the harness on, and what we're going to show is trauma relief. And in trauma relief, what you basically have is 5 to 7 minutes after you fall before the onset of trauma. And what that trauma is lactic acid. So non-oxygenated blood that's pooling up in your lower extremities. So when that gets released, it basically turns into blood clots, and a lot of people call it bad blood. So bad blood is not good. So if all that pressure is released and you're hanging up there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that gets released, where is all that clot's going to go? Back to the heart that pumped it, right? So it could put you into shock. It could could kill you, whatever. So all the above, and they're all bad. So you want to try to release some of that pressure. So when we're going to get him up here, and we're going to show you also D-ring stretch. So come on here, step in my office here, Seth. Okay, face the camera there. And I'll hook you up. Okay. So when I do this in a full training, I go over the inspections and everything. But when I get to this part here, it's basically showing a couple things. It talks about clear fall distance, number one, and what I talked about before is D-ring stretch and where your chest ends up at. That's number two components, and the third component is the trauma relief. So again, like I said before, you have about 5 to 7 minutes to get that individual down before that trauma starts. When you deploy those, when you get up, and provided you hadn't hit your head, you should be good. You can at least step into those and alleviate some of that pressure. So we'll go up. You ready? Famous last words? Okay, all right. You can hang on to these here if you want. There you go. How's it feel there, Seth? Not real comfortable. No, it's not. So you can see the D-ring stretch. So the D-ring basically started out in the middle, just above his shoulder blades, and look at it where it's now. It's over his head. So that extra foot you have to take into consideration. So if provided Seth didn't hit his head on the way down, and he had his hard hat on, and he didn't hit his head, he was good. What he can do is he can deploy these right here. Take that other one out. There you go. And then attach these two together. Oh, there's that one. Attach those two together. He can go ahead and adjust those before if he were to fall, step into it. Step into there, step into that one there. Now you may want to adjust, and what you can do is that should alleviate some of the pressure there.
Yes.
Help a little bit. Yeah. Not much, but it helps a little bit. What it does, it keeps the blood from flowing and stop pooling from the down in your lower extremity. So you can there's been studies done, Air Force guys that are in really good shape that have been in trauma, suspension trauma, for 20 minutes, but they're relatively physically fit. They can probably get by with that. They do something like this, they might be able to last a little longer. It may not save your life, but it'll save them. It'll give them a few extra minutes to get there and get you down with whatever rescue plan that you have. So, okay?
Yes, sir.
Y'all good?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Get that there. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. Free.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Give Seth a hand. Yeah, it doesn't feel very good, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No.
You feel the pressure release right away. You know,
Yeah,
slide comfortably.
it's immediate. Yeah, I mean, if you're up there for, there was up in I think it was Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a individual. They were working on the SkyTrack that goes across the fairgrounds, and they had they did poor planning, number one, but they had a gun show going on, and they had too many cars parked around, and where they were working, they were close to cars. Well, they called the fire department. Fire department comes out there. They can't get to it because there's too many cars around. They can't get their extension ladder over to them to get them. Well, the guy ended up being hanging up there for like 30 minutes, and he did not make it, unfortunately. Yeah, he did not make it. So this here, so when you use a 6-foot lanyard like this, the shock pack always has to be towards the back. So this is the user right here. That's where his D-ring's connected off to. So this pack has to be to the user at all times. Can't be the other way around. Too many forces on it if it's put up on top. So this is what's slowing it down. So I'll go ahead. You're rolling? Okay. A little bit of trauma there, right? So if you see where Seth, when he was tied off, so that would have been up here, but this is where he's tied off right here, so you can see where I would have landed. My feet, my legs would have been that far into the ground. Okay, that's with a 6-foot lanyard. And if we do a 6-foot yo-yo, 6-foot SRD retractable, completely different story. Okay.